Hello, everybody. Welcome to School Live. We have Master Spiritual Teacher GP Walsh with myself, Lisa Berry, here, talking about a very interesting topic that I couldn't wait to bring up. This has been something of, I want to say, my industry for 25 years, but it's really the human industry, what everybody goes through. And it's all about weight loss. And you might think, what the heck does spirituality have to do with weight loss? And in the show description, which I really was loving digging into, maybe you yourself have lost weight, wanted to lose weight. I know you know people who have lost weight. Who doesn't? And then there's this other side of it where it comes back, or you can't lose it, or for some reason it's everything in your world and then suddenly it's not, and you might even be afraid of losing this weight. So a story came up over the last week, and I brought it to GP, and I said, "Isn't this so interesting that how powerful this is?" And I'm gonna share that story with you, and then you can see exactly where we're going to be going. I love taking weight loss to places that's never been, because, as I said, I've been in this industry, since the early '90s, and I wanted to call it the wellness industry. But when it's about weight loss, it can be cruel, it can be abusive, it can be sad and depressing and very hurtful and harmful. So I really wanted to bring in this level of love and caring and spirituality on this. So hello, everybody. I can see people poking on and saying hello. So hello. Well, I was over at a friend's house last week, and another lady shared a story with us. She is in the industry of inch loss, let's call it that, inch loss. And she was sharing how a lovely, wonderful woman, full of anticipation and excitement for getting into her new body. She had plans, she was going to lose this weight. She was going to be smaller. Everybody's going to love her more. Everything that we think that comes with weight loss, if we have that perfect body or the body that we envision. And this woman came in for a specific treatment, and her waistline measured in the mid 60s, so 63 inches. And after the treatment, she was down to 53 inches. Success, right? My gosh, congratulations. Wow, we're crying. We're excited. Everything is so good. This is going to happen. This is a miracle. This can really be true. I can live this life, right? That's what we're thinking. We're celebrating for this woman. So it was time for her next treatment, which would just be in a few days to a week. And she calls up and says, "I can't do it." And everybody's a little surprised. "What do you mean? We're all excited. We can't wait to see. Is it going to be another 10? Is it going to be 4? What's going to happen?" Well, though she had maintained a big part of that loss, there were still 6 or 7 inches. I think only three or 4 came back. It scared her. It scared the poop out of her, because she was now, "I can't lose this weight. Who will I be without this weight? I'll lose my protection." This word protection came up. And you think, what? What do you mean protection? You're going to be kept from this life, from your dream, from your desire, from your goals. What do you mean? How could you stop? "I'm too afraid." And in her fear of thinking she deserved this, could have this life, it was a fear that she wouldn't be protected any longer. So her weight was literally in her protection. She felt protected in this body. So, I had to bring this to GP. I said, "All right, what's going on here?" So you really took to the story, GP. You really, your heart opened up, and you had quite a few things to say that I loved. And I'm going to let you jump right in here. So please, everybody, stay with us for this class as we find out about the necessity of protection in our lives and how it shows up even in extra pesky pounds that we think we don't want, but maybe we need. So thank you, GP.
It's a great story, isn't it? And the first thing that surprised me was that she became aware of the fact that she felt unprotected. For most, it's unconscious. They just kind of, they miss the appointment. They're late. They for some reason they just never go back, right? And they're not really conscious why. So that was the first thing that really struck me about it. and that it was so overt to her and so obvious that it was the self-protection. She needed a little bit of inner work to before her next treatment, so that she could come to terms with that feeling of being unprotected. And you can clearly see that that goes all the way back to her childhood, that she didn't feel safe. She didn't feel protected. Who knows what could have happened? I've known many, many women who've put on weight simply because of sexual experiences they had, and they simply did not want to be attractive anymore. They wanted to become unattractive because it attracted the wrong things. It wasn't enjoyed. It wasn't celebrated. It was exploited or abused, and as a result, it becomes more dangerous than it becomes. You don't want the attention. You're not safe when you get the attention, and these things really lie very deeply under the surface. And the same thing is anything we do that makes ourselves less attractive, right? We dumb ourselves down. We don't express our opinions, right? We hold back on things. The way we dress, the things we do, the opportunities we give us, they all express this sense of feeling unsafe. It's not safe to be me, so I'm going to become something else. And the only way you can, if you could combine that treatment, which obviously taking 10 inches off in one session is like, I mean, it's an amazing technology, whatever it is. But it's always going to be a roller coaster unless this underlying thing takes place. Right? If the underlying freedom from that sense of not being protected is attained, the techniques will work. Weight loss will work. The body will, in fact, with very little help from you, find its ideal weight and stay there. Because now it's no longer needing to hold extra weight, extra padding, extra buffering, right? And so it can get to what the body itself knows is a healthy level of weight to be at. And it's going to be different for everybody. There is no ideal weight. Mm-hmm. So the real question is, how do we get to the place of feeling safe? And as you well know, it's pretty much all I ever talk about.
You are the big man. Well, a few things in that, and just to share with all of our wonderful viewers here, participants, the feeling unattractive is definitely a major role. And another role that a lot of men and women can both feel with weight on them is the size can make them feel like tough, like my armor. And so as opposed to this, like, I want to be ugly or dim my light and not be attractive, it's also like, oh yeah, I can stop you. I will just bulldoze you with this weight. So it can go both ways. So some people might not always resonate.
No, that's very true. It can go in, and especially now because there's such an emphasis on weight and on a completely unnatural view of beauty, that the weight can be combined with a very aggressive and belligerent personality.
Yes.
To keep people away, to get rid of the softness. Right?
Oh, yeah. To keep people away was a big one.
Yeah.
And then into another point that you brought up there about safe. So when we are safe, we're happy because we're able to express ourselves. We're able to receive. We're able to give. This feels really natural. And I have another girlfriend who actually started in the weight loss industry in the 90s with me. And it was interesting because she said, it doesn't matter what program I follow or how much I work out. It's only when I'm happy that I lose this weight. And I wanted to bring that up as well, because I used to say, well, it must be your joy chemicals, they melt that away. But
yes, it's true. The safer you feel, the more protected you feel. The less you need to hold on to anything, and the more open you are to life. So the layers of protection required really vanish. And what happens is the natural protective mechanism of the system, which is a discerning wisdom that can tell who to trust, who not to trust, where to go, not to go. A very intuitive sense of being in life takes over. And it doesn't need any armor.
Mm-hmm. Yes. When we're not safe, there's two things I like to bring up mechanically that we do, hormonally and mechanically. Cortisol levels rise, and that puts on the pounds as well and disturbs our sleep, which we know that's where rest and repair happen, as well as we go into a panic breathing technique. We're not even thinking about it, which is also not going to assist us in any kind of weight loss or calmness. GP, a lot of times in the spiritual world, we'll meet. I'm just throwing this out to everybody here. Empaths, psychics, channelers, and we tend to find them to hold all this weight. And what it's been commonly said, and I often, would agree, like, yeah, that's so true. I'm not saying everybody, by the way, but then they'll say, yes, because I'm holding on to everyone else's energy or baggage or stories and things like that. Can we really chat a little bit about that and how?
Well, any way in which we hold on to anything is going to accumulate in the energy system in one way or another.
Accumulate. Okay. I like that word.
Yeah. And for some, they simply don't know how to keep it from happening. Right? And so it accumulates because they just don't know how to. They haven't gotten enough training to get them to the point where they know how to let the energy pass through. So they become a diffuser and a transformer and not a collector.
Right.
Because if you're a collector, believe me, there's going to be plenty of people who are happy to dump their stuff on you. Mm-hmm. But if you're a transformer, you'll be capable of transforming it, but only if they're able to. Right? If they really want to let go of it and not dump it, because if you just dump it, that's just the overflow, right? They're still filling the cup back up again, and now they're going to dump some more off. There's no real healing there. There's no real transformation that takes place. And the other thing to watch out for is pride. Oh, I could take on all this energy of other people. There's just pride in being an empath and being, I'm really spiritual and I can do these things. Ooh, watch out for that one. There's nothing more annoying or stinky than a spiritual ego. They really smell bad, and they cannot smell their own breath.
I love about, I remember it, oh gosh, it was decades ago, and somebody said, a lot of people say I need to have, this came up too. Oh, you just brought up so many things. So I've got to set boundaries. I've got to set barriers, but that doesn't keep you free. Discernment and allowing to pass through is what is that freedom. And so I love that you said that, because if you become a collector or a protector, you need the armor if you're a protector, and
Yes.
if you'll be super padded if you're a collector. Now, what does that mean to allow things to pass through? What does that mean?
Well, if empathic is a word I don't know when it came around. It's relatively recent, right? Mm-hmm. People who pick up on feelings as opposed to psychics who pick up on thoughts and that sort of thing. Although, I don't really know my own experiences. It's both. Things just kind of come, and to let them pass through means that there's an open space in which that energy that is coming to you doesn't need to collect anywhere, doesn't need to be resisted, and simply needs to be regarded with loving awareness. And in that loving awareness is the space in which everything can dissolve back into its fundamental potential, because there's nothing there to catch it. So if you yourself are empty of any places where it could stick, and you can just regard it with loving awareness, which is inherently empty, then it will just pass through, and it will actually diffuse its way on the way out. It not only just passes through it, like it doesn't touch me, it actually is removed from them.
Oh, from the person. So if I went to you, to dissolve. So, and I give it to you here, and you're like, that's okay. I'm not going to keep it either. you let it go through, but then it's dissolved from me as well.
Well, it's not all that simple. Here, take it, right?
Please,
A little magic wand and poof, it disappears. There's an interchange there. There's an openness, right? Right. It's our own openness to responding to a space of loving awareness. So if I can create the space of loving awareness, and you can respond to it, then it will dissolve. It's not like you're giving it to me personally. You're letting it resolve into the space. And the only thing the healer does is maintain the space. The space does the work because it's empty. There's no place for anything to stick. So if I think I'm doing the work, man, I'm in trouble. It's just going to stick all over.
That's very
Because
valuable.
that personal sense of being, I am the empath, I am the psychic, right? Very dangerous. Because now you're taking it on personally, and no person can endure that kind of energy. So if you let go of the person and just be empty, space can endure it all.
It's just there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there. A galaxy can explode and spaces go, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, that's such an interesting way of looking. Now, I almost feel like I need a disclaimer here. I'm not saying if you guys are all empty, you're going to be all skinny minis, buff and running around. So we do have human bodies, and actually, it's very healthy to have some storage, so we can create our hormones and if time of famine and all that good stuff. This is not about that. I was.
Yes.
Really wanted to dive into some beliefs that we have and truths that are about the energy of weight loss. And if we don't dissolve them, they'll come back. What if we might be thinking, I wanted to go into, my computer's doing something funny, sorry. Karma. It's like I've done bad things, so it's my karma to live this life as an obese person or somebody struggling.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that is karma is so horribly misunderstood that we project all sorts of things on it, as the storyteller mind is wont to do, to try to come up for an explanation as to why this is happening and why am I so unable to do anything about it. And so we can look at things like karma, childhood trauma, and all of that sort of stuff. And we can either project on it or we can explore it. And in order to explore it, you have to start with this. Having too much weight isn't the problem. That's a presenting symptom. It's a solution. It's the way the body has responded to circumstances that made it feel unsafe, and it provided, and it seemed to work, right? And if it was successful at some time at keeping you from being in danger, it pushing off the whatever it was that was creating the sense of danger, then it's going to stay with it, and it's just going to keep on. Now, where that moment of danger, of the lack of safety was, whether it was in this life as a child or any past life, is totally irrelevant. You don't need to know in order to come to the healthy resolution of it. And sometimes it gets revealed in the process of healing. Sometimes it doesn't. The biggest relief I found as somebody who practices energy healing was, I don't need to know. All I know is that something happened sometime somewhere that convinced the whole energy system that it was in danger, and it had to find some kind of a solution to avert it. And in this particular case, this is the solution that it found. And it worked, so it said, it worked, I'm sticking with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so it just sticks around. And after a while, because we're so disconnected from where the actual traumatic event took place in childhood or a past life, it doesn't matter. We're still disconnected. It's still completely outside of our conscious awareness. we've laid story upon story upon story on top of it, explaining this and that and karma. We can even take childhood trauma, which is one of the likely sources of it, and project all sorts of things on it, trying to imagine, using the mind to try to solve the problem that only the body itself can solve. You have to simply make it safe enough for it to do it.
Yes. Does the story that we're telling to ourselves and others about why that weight is there have any clue or link to the trauma that occurred? Or is it just our mind? Okay, I found that must be the reason. I was in a car accident and I was unable to be physically active. So I ate too much food and didn't work out.
Well, there's an easy way to tell. If you found it, it'd be healed.
If you found it, it would be healed?
Yeah. If the actual source of it came up in the environment of loving awareness, the healing would take place. So otherwise, it's just the mind thinking about it. Right? And we're very active. We're all aware of psychology and all various kinds of theories and that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, it's because this happened in my childhood. Well, if it's had no effect on and at least on your sense of self-respect or your sense of happiness, if it had no effect on it, then it was nothing but the mind. There was no real discovery there. You were simply taking a theory and applying to it, and it's just another layer of protection.
That's so interesting. I'm worried so many people are going to write in, but I know why I gained this weight and now it didn't go away. So I'm waiting for it.
Well, I knew people, back when psychotherapy was really much more analytic than it is now. I'm just so happy to see it become more body-based. It's more energy-based. It's more tender. There's more involvement. When it was really just, pure psychoanalysis, people go 10, 15 years. They know absolutely everything about whatever happened to them, and they're still as miserable as they were the first day they walked into the office, because analyzing doesn't do anything. Okay, I've got this pile of bricks on my back, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm really heavy, and I can't do anything about it. But I know all the bricks. I know everywhere they came from, where I picked them up. I know who made them, all the people that were involved, right? But I'm still carrying the bricks. Yeah. I know everything there is to know about those bricks. But I need to set the fuckers down.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense to me. And I know this isn't about weight loss. However, I've always had a lot of hair. When my mother passed 10 years ago, I lost all my hair, not all of it, but a lot of it. And I couldn't believe it. I bought extensions and stuff. And I thought, I'm like the hair girl. Like I'm just known for this. It took 3 years actually before I kind of started to think, oh my gosh, I think I've lost, this is stress from my mom's death. I didn't process it. And, then finally I just went, I'm just not doing this anymore. I don't want to do hair extensions. I don't want blah, blah, blah. I'm okay with it. And I remember that breakdown moment, took all them out. And I swear within 6 months, I had all my hair back. And I was like, it's been 10 years now. And so I see what you're saying though. There was a moment of, I want to say surrender, but perhaps it was more loving awareness. It wasn't just like, oh, I got to blame this. I'm going to blame it.
The loving and awareness, drives the surrender. It was like, okay, if this is what it is, okay. And in that is a moment of self-acceptance. And in that moment of self-acceptance, stress just drops. The cortisol's it drops because there's nothing, you don't have to protect yourself anymore. The extensions, they were to protect. They were to protect your image in other people's eyes. They were to protect yourself from the criticism that you thought you might get, right? And people are, oh, what happened to you?
Better with
right? But at that moment, none of that matters anymore, which means you were safe. It was just safe to be you as you are. And immediately the body responded because the energy could go back into its natural channels.
Yes. Yes. Actually, that was one of the first things I remember learning when we first did the flow of enlightenment, was about flowing down its natural channels. And whether as it's flowing, if it has a rock, it has got to turn around the other way and go around it, or the bank's a little high or low, it's going to have those things, but it really needs its natural flow.
it's all about flowing in the natural channels, and everyone is different. Your natural channels and mine are not the same. They can intermix, right? Just they are with us doing the show and with everybody here. There's all sorts of beautiful intermixing that can take place. But that's just but everybody has their natural flow. A relationship is when you happen to be flowing together.
Yes.
And as long as you don't try to, flow in each other's riverbed,
You're like, that's my riverbed. No.
everything is fine. Yeah.
When a person, I don't know, it's not like you decide like, oh, today I want to lose the weight now. It's more of, what if there's a defense? Like, of course, yes, because we're defending, like, this is my protection. I need this for where I am. But so perhaps would it be best that we kind of have that awareness that we're not defending the weight. We're defending the safety mechanism. We're defending the protection.
We're defending our sense of autonomy, our sense of being myself. We're trying to defend our own innocence.
Ouch, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one, right? I mean, it wasn't safe to be you, so layers had to be created in order to protect you, because it wasn't safe to be you, and those layers keep you in and the world out. And that's why we get later in life and we can't even remember how it all happened. We're trying to be free. The desire to lose the weight is, I want to be free from this burden. But the energy is saying, but you can't be. It's too dangerous. We can't let you be free, because if you are, you'll be hurt, and you'll be hurt badly, and you know it. And that's the position that it's in. And the only way to get it out of that position is to show it is safe by you becoming safe. And that's the only way I know that it can possibly work. So, like that woman who says, I'm not going to be protected. I go, wonderful. Yeah, okay, you're not. What if it was possible to find ways to be protected and be at an ideal weight for you? Would that be okay? A simple question like that. And she's never heard that before. Nobody's ever said that to her. It's just assumed that this is the way it has to be, because it was at one point, and so it becomes automated into the system and the like, and just in a very gentle environment. And you've heard me say this to people like 100 million times, right? Well, maybe it's possible to be free and safe at the same time. What if that's possible? And more often than not, there's this feeling that rises up, and people go, like, I never thought of that, right? And not here. It's coming from the body. Right. Because the body wants to be free from it too. It didn't take this on because it liked it. It took it on because it had to.
That's really valuable that you bring that up, because so many times, when I'm talking to people about their weight, and it's like, my body can't like this weight. My knees must be screaming, carrying this. Like the body doesn't, it wants to be free of it as well. And that's that natural channel. And just imagining, that right now, and thankfully, I'm glad that we have all these, education systems everywhere and people teaching us stuff like, yes, there are certain foods that, really do cause inflammation. Sugar, there are definitely foods and fats, when you're looking at a fat cell, you break it apart. It's not just fat. It's got inflammation. It's got toxins. It's got that
all sorts of, it's a very powerful mechanism, because it collects all that crap.
Collective. Yeah. And so so this is the interesting thing. Like I can imagine, like, at first my brain was going, well, just because it's energetic and spiritual doesn't mean that we don't have to pay attention to these things.
Absolutely not. When you look at it, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, the whole role of fat is protective. I mean, it grabs up the toxins so it doesn't affect the organs, and it holds on to it until it can get rid of it. And it gets rid of it when we go through it the right way. It will dispense with it. And of course, on the way out, it may not be really pleasant. but let's go. Let's go of it when the rest of the system is ready to actually get it out of the system completely. while it's in, it's got to do its job and hold on to it. So you can see that fat is functioning on a physical level as well as on the emotional and on an energetic level. This is one system, folks. It's one system. Fat, as it appears as a physical object, is also has a dimension that's emotional, a dimension that's spiritual, a dimension that's energetic. I mean, there's no such thing as anything that just exists in this one little dimension. And it's not true.
Yeah. It's just, and I'm glad we're doing this show, because it might be it is the missing piece that we might have already addressed so many other areas.
So we're going to start the Lisa Berry weight loss clinic.
The loving awareness melt away,
the loving awareness makeover. Yeah, there we go.
What's funny is, even back in the day when I started as a weight loss counselor, it sounds so funny back then to be like a camp counselor, weight loss counselor. it was so emotional, and so I was young. I was like 19, 18, and very, to hear it was women, it was mostly women, a couple men back then, but it was just so emotional to hear that. And as long as you held that space for them, and you felt really close to them too, because as they went through the journey, and they really thanked you and said, if it wasn't for you, and it's not that that's a lie or a truth, it's that's right. We were together. There was a safe place.
That's it. We have to learn how to create a safe place for ourselves. None of us, and somebody's got to show us how to do that. Somebody's got to model that for you. When I was learning how to play music, I listened to really good musicians. And I think it's really amazing if you look on YouTube at the level of expertise of young musicians compared to when I was a young musician. It just blows me away, especially young girls, right? In areas that there were no girls there at all. One of the greatest bass players in the world right now is a girl, Tal Wackenfield, and it's simply because they've got a model. They can look at it. They can see it. And go, oh, how did he do that? And you can find somebody who'll show you how to do it. Right? I mean, God, I wish I'd had that when I was a young musician, for crying out loud. But we need that, right?
Modeling safety.
We need to know somebody to show us, how do you create an environment of safety? How do you do it? When none of us know how, we didn't come from places that were safe. So what are you going to do? You're going to stay the same pattern until you encounter some way and someone who can create it for you, and then gradually show you how to do it. And it has to happen that way. Whether you're learning art or engineering or weight loss, it has to be that way.
It's funny when you just said that. You said whether you're doing this or not. That's where we were talking about the coherence process and how it's really going from wishing it to living it, because there's such that's scary, not scary. Yeah, it becomes scary in the middle of it. Like, I wish, but oh my gosh, now it's happening. Oh no, maybe won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, it is happening. Excuse me, I'm busy. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Or what's for dinner? Or
yes, totally.
It's really like that.
So yes, and I actually will take that moment just for a second, just to let people know the coherence process. I know we're not, that is what it is. That's what we are teaching. But we did change the title of it. So if you see from wishing it to living it, then that's what we're referring to as that coherence process. And we just had that workshop a few weeks ago, and we are going to be holding it again and again and again, because of this very reason. It doesn't matter which topic, we choose, whether it's weight loss or, like you said, learning to do something, any wish or desire or change that you want to make. So much comes up, and we get to, with loving awareness, be able to spot where along that line and help you to get to that point of, it is safe to be free. It is safe to be me. It is safe to be in this new environment, because some conditions need to be changed.
Yeah. And let's face it, going into a new environment is uncomfortable. Walk into a network meeting, a networking group, and you've never been there before. You're going to be on high alert, right? Heart rate's going to be up. Alertness is going to be there. Focus is going to be right. You're going to be editing. What am I going to say? And that's natural. That's perfectly natural because it's all new. You don't know who to be. There are no rules. So the nervous system is busy looking around for cues as to how to be, uh, get based on what it knows. So it's perfectly natural to be in that kind of state. And when you start making genuine transformation in your life, you're going to be going in to circumstances that are like that. And the nervous system is going to want to back off and go back to what's familiar. So
Yes.
without the right kind of guidance and understanding, you'll be forever pulled back. You won't be able to take that step beyond, uh, even though you're quite capable of doing it. It's simply we're not used to. We, we kind of gotten this idea, and this is just one of the dark sides of self help and law of attraction and all that. That somehow it's all supposed to be easy. That I'm not supposed to feel these things, right? And that if I'm feeling this discomfort, something's wrong. I guess I need more processing, and you back off into more processing. When in fact it's not wrong at all. It's exactly what happens as you are moving through. The processing is to acquire the strength and the understanding to say, okay, this is happening now. Yeah, my body's a little freaked out right now. This is not the same. I don't feel protected, as in the case of that woman.
Mhm.
Now, with proper guidance, you go, oh, right, okay, this is supposed to be here. So let's just stay with this for a little bit. It's okay that I don't feel protected. Am I protected? Are there other resources inside me to help me come to feel protected as I move down this path? And of course, for me, that's a far greater discovery of to find those resources than losing the way.
Yes, they're well, hopefully forever lasting, but long lasting. And I want to highlight what you just said there. Processing, you develop strength and understanding. So when somebody says I'm processing something, it doesn't mean we're suppressing something or hiding it, fixing it. It is purely, I love that. It's about gaining the strength as you are able to be with it and finding those inner resources and having the understanding. And one of my, I'm going to misquote it because it's been so long that I've thought about it, but they said something, the more we understand something, the more we can love it. If we don't really understand it, we're making shit up. We're like,
You're
if
making shit up.
you,
Yes, yes. Well, understanding. I mean, wisdom and compassion, understanding and love. You can't separate the two.
yeah,
You can't love something you're afraid of, right?
mm,
You
right.
can't love
Ooh,
something you fear. You can't love something you don't. If you don't understand something, if something isn't understood, it's like when the body encounters something new for the very first time. Its first reaction is to be is to pull back, is to be afraid of it, is to be
protect.
cautious because it doesn't know. When it gets to know, oh, it's okay. And so understanding is that level of knowingness.
Yeah.
And when stuff comes up and you have to process it, that is the processing that needs to take place. is that is the coming to the place of understanding and love, which, oh, now I know what it is. There's nothing really to be afraid of. Or I know what it is, and yeah, I'm going to avoid that.
Yes, that's a big one too. And just before we go into the question and answers, get to the comments. So please put them in there for us. Um, Oh, great. You had mentioned right from the beginning, I love that you said this. Some people don't even recognize that it's a protection thing. Things might just be life, like, well, I started this program, I started this thing, but then you know what, the kids got sick, or I got sick, or I was unable to do it at a time. I didn't have the money to continue this program, or whichever. And there's a step in the coherence process, and we renamed it to devotion. And I find it interesting. It was conviction. So if you guys want to use both words, because I think they both fall into this play here, there are things that we all know that when we feel safe to move forward, to make that change, to express ourselves in that new environment, nothing stops us.
Nothing.
We're so devoted. Things will come up, they sure will, but you're able to see around it because of that inner resource that you've tapped
Right.
into, which you were talking about, GP.
And that's key, that it's an inner sense of safety. Because otherwise, we're trying to make the external environment safe, and that will never work.
Yeah. Angels.
That will never work. But if I find that place, safety inside, that sense of having of inner strength, the inner resources, even when I'm not sure whether it's safe or not, I feel confident to continue enough to find out. And that's when we're like, that's when the whole world is open to us.
Yeah. And I hope each and every one of you have at least felt that once or twice in your life. It's such a beautiful feeling. So, my gosh, I feel like there's about a bazillion invitations I can invite you to. I'm trying to pick one right now, but I'm so excited about all of them. All I would love to share as we go into the questions and thoughts here is that we do have the support for you in many ways. Like homeschool is also a platform. We have our show live here, but it is our school. It is a place, whether it's online or talking to me, that we can help guide you to whichever way is going to best support you. Maybe it's a one-on-one, maybe it's, an online class, maybe it's a group that you come to and join with us. Maybe it's a specialty program. So I'm going to encourage all of you, if there's something that you just want to explore, like, yeah, I need something, but I just don't know what. I'd like to find my inner safety. Then just either message me here, or you can email me privately at lisa@homeschool.co. So lisa@homeschool.co. So just message me there or put a comment and I can get back to you. But so GP, my goodness, what do we have here? Let's go and say hello to everybody and thank you for being here. We have Ava. Is there a question? Love. We love love. Okay. Fernando, hello. Janet, weight loss has been a roller coaster ride, even after years of tapping. Okay. So we're doing some work here. Do we want
Yes.
to jump?
Yes. So tapping, well, at least the way I teach it, which is not the way everybody teaches it. Right? It is a tool for allowing ourselves to dig in. Right? Because tapping communicates safety through touch. That's the primary function for me that it serves. I know there's a lot of other kinds of more scientific and clinical explanations of it, which are great. But for me, if it isn't accompanied by kind of a contemplative willingness to examine, rather than just, I want the symptom to go away, which is, what you hear a lot, then it's not going to be effective. Right? And if you've been tapping for a long time and you've had no results out of it, it means there's something in the way. There's something that's keeping the tapping from being effective. So instead of, and what I would start with is simply put the weight loss aside, right? Recognize that it's a symptom and it's not the actual problem, right? And begin to question inside while you're tapping, all right, what is it I really need to see here? What is it that's really going on? Right? And as you start doing that, you'll hear the little voice going, and maybe we can lose the weight. How about losing the weight now? Because it's going to want to keep your attention on the symptom. Right? As long as your attention's on the symptom, guess what? The cause is completely safe. Nobody's poking there. Nobody's tapping on that. And so it's very interested in keeping you distracted by making you think it's all about the fact you got this weight. It's not. It doesn't. In fact, it's only a symptom. Right? If your nose starts running, it's not a problem with your nose. It means there's these little critters inside, right? There's all sorts of things going on that are having to deal with it. So we don't, punish our noses. So the roller coaster ride is simply because you might get to a particular place emotionally where you don't feel the need as much, but the underlying structures are still there. And we have to become spiritually mature enough to want to get down to the roots, to want to be free more than just have a better set of symptoms. And that's the path of spiritual maturity, where freedom becomes more important than simply better circumstances or feeling good. That freedom becomes even more important than the weight. Now, you can't do that overnight. right? We can't just make up our mind. That's something that very gradually comes about as we begin to explore. So completely put the weight loss aside as if it doesn't matter, because in fact it doesn't. And as you're chapping, just go, okay, I give up. What is it that I really need to see right this moment? Not big picture future, but right this moment. What do I need to see right now? And I really want to be free. My intention is to be free, whatever that looks like. I want to be free. I want to be happy. I want to be whole. I want to feel whole. And just, it's almost a prayer. As your heart just kind of opens to its deepest yearning, which is to simply be happy, to be loved and loving. And so we get in touch with our deepest motivations. And with that, there's a whole new energy that will open up. A whole new vistas will open up. And you will get answers to that. Because now you're asking the right question in an environment where it's safe to get an answer. And if you don't understand an answer, something comes up, right? Sometimes it'll be a memory from the past. Sometimes it'll be something completely weird. You don't even know where it came from. And just say, well, thank you for showing me that. Do you need me to do anything with it, or can you handle it from here? Because remember, your job is only make it safe. And then just notice all the places in which you criticize yourself, you judge yourself, you say it's my fault, you take all the blame. Right? This is the process of taking all the responsibility and none of the blame.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I found that helpful for so many reasons. I'm just going to put this out here. If anybody here watching right now or the replay, you would like us to do a workshop, including tapping, the way that GP does it, specifically for weight loss or body issues, body image issues, please put that in the comments and we can get your opinions and your desires and pull something together. Jen Young has shared with us, I never had issues with weight until recently, as I uncovered repressed sexual abuse from early childhood, and then the weight has skyrocketed.
Right. That's very interesting and a bit unusual, actually.
They're rare.
Yeah, a bit unusual. Usually it would show up earlier. But at some point it does, right? So it's not a problem, right? Don't see it as a problem. All of a sudden I'm getting this problem. No, all of a sudden at this point, for whatever reason, you've softened. The heart is softened and opened. You spiritually have grown, so that freedom is more important than just the appearances or the circumstances. In which case, this stuff can begin to come to the surface, and when it does, it begins to have its effect. Okay? And so, okay, so now the job is to go, wow. Yeah, well, if gaining a lot of weight is a protection from any further sexual abuse, then it's a pretty good strategy, right? It's a very effective strategy, right? I just make myself unattractive. And you might also pay attention if you're drawn to the way you look, the clothes you're wearing, the kind of things you're doing. You may find that this desire to protect yourself is touching other areas of your life. Maybe it's the most obvious in weight, but it's going to be other places too. And now you simply come back now, okay, right, I did actually experience this. This was repressed in me. It's been laying under the surface. There's pain here. There's suffering. There's a sense of being diminished, of being invalidated, violated. Right? We have to be willing to let all of those feelings rise to the surface, and all of the anger, maybe even rage about it, all the stuff that would surround it, that at the time it happened in childhood, you were incapable of processing it in the way it should be processed. Right? which is self-protection, kicking the guy in the balls or whatever needed to happen, right? Which is the way it should have happened, but it couldn't because of the vulnerability of the child. So it's all still there. So let it out. Let it out. This would be something especially you might want to get some help with. I don't know how much, what kind of practices you have for your inner work and stuff. It would help me. It would help me assess more. But some people they've done enough of the inner work and matured enough that they can do this on their own. Although I would recommend at first not. If it's come up, I don't know exactly how you're feeling emotionally about it, how much turmoil was there when it came up, but you began to realize that it was there. And the very fact that weight started to be putting on tells me that there's still some repression going on, that there's still some fear to face it. Because if so, it probably would have just already kind of exploded for you, and the weight wouldn't have been necessary. So my guess would be you'd need some kind of assistance to dig into it.
Oh, I'm so appreciative of hearing that. And sometimes what was coming up a little bit is sometimes we're just so shocked, like, what, that actually happened? And it could be a denial. It could be just, wait, did everything I know was a lie? Or now it explains things, or just so much is going on there.
So much. Yeah. There's so much. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you. And I just want to share, because I jumped to the end there, just to say that Janet, that was helpful for her. And we're glad that you are here asking these questions. That's why we do this. And hello, Andy. Thank you for doing your best, loving us.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
That's our intention to love is our nature. So if you're loving us, you are loving us. And then your mind will say, no, you're not. You're not doing it good enough. Right? And you go, well, at least I'm trying. Yeah, but not hard enough. Listen to it. Our love is love. Right? And notice how the mind is trying to compare it like you're supposed to be, I don't know, Christ or something. It's like, that's all imaginary. I mean, we have no idea what he was like, right? He could have been grumpy a lot of the time. We'll never know. And it could have bad days, right? So let's not compare ourselves to anything. Is there a desire to love there? Well, set it free. That's all. That's all we want to do, is set that capacity to love free, because obviously, at least trying, it means more to you than not loving. And that says everything I need to know about you.
Love your words. Love the intention behind your words too. And Facebook user. Hello, beloveds. Hello. Lots of hearts. And then Hassan has some things to share. And then we come to Bernadette. So Hassan, what I found Muji was binge eating is a trauma response, anorexic bulimia, binge eating, rather than facing our emotions. Facing.
I'm curious about this because I was reading it earlier. And
okay.
It seems to me that English is not his first language. So I'm trying to understand exactly what I think it's a he. I'm not even sure about that. Is this a personal thing? Is anorexia or bulimia something you are suffering or suffered with?
Right.
It's hard for me to tell if there's a question here or just kind of an observation.
Statement. Or,
So can you put it a little bit more succinctly? This video is a game changer for all traumas. Well, thank you. Yeah, because they all have the same origin. I just want to make sure that I'm really answering what's on your heart, and I'm not quite getting it. Yeah, I'm afraid anorexia, bulimia, binge eating rather than facing our emotions. Well, I mean, I heard Jack Kornfield refer to spiritual bulimia, right? Where we'll do something and we'll try to pray about it or meditate our way through and then do it again. Because it's a good metaphor for all sorts of things, where when we find ourselves in circumstances where we know that there are negative consequences and we can't do anything about it, I mean, that's the definition of an addiction. And what does it take to break through that? An enormous amount of contemplative, loving awareness, a cultivated capacity to be with your feelings, as you point out, eating rather than facing our emotions. And of course, we get into a cycle where that's happening, right? That we don't feel like we can get out of, and then the bulimia or the anorexia seems to be the problem, and it isn't. It is the underlying. It's another protective mechanism, another distraction. So the only solution is to cultivate that capacity to be with our feelings, and it has to start very gently and very gradually, and you'll continue the behavior um, at the beginning until eventually, if you are willing to be with it, a little gap begins to open up between the trigger and the reaction to it, and a little space opens up, a little bit more capacity for choice opens up, and be very, very gradual. Now, if the behavior is really dangerous, you should get medical or psychological help. Sometimes you need therapy, right? The long-term solution, in my opinion, is always this kind of deep inner contemplation, this kind of loving self-inquiry, compassionate inquiry, insightful meditation is always the ultimate answer to it. But oftentimes we need, some intervention, right? Because some things are very severe. Anorexia is very threatening, right? It's dangerous, right? And there's a very distorted self-image, so that even though there's an emaciated person in the mirror, the one looking in the mirror, all they notice is a fat thigh. In their eyes, they're too fat, which is a distortion that has taken place. It goes back to childhood or past life traumas. I mean, there's no doubt about where it originates. But the solution may require some medical intervention, so I always tell people, to go that way. I'm a spiritual guy. I'm not a doctor. So I take care of the long term.
Yes.
And I leave them to do the job that they're much better at. So this to me, and again, I can't claim any kind of authority. I'm not a psychologist. I have no letters after my name. This is just my own personal experience of dealing with trauma in myself and hundreds, maybe thousands others by now. And that this is how it works. And it is both. There's physiological, there's emotional, there's mental, and there's spiritual, and it's all wrapped up together.
It's all one. It is wrapped up. And to try to we can maybe work on things task by task at a time, but it really does need to be all worked with. So that was beautiful. And with Bernadette, and then we'll wrap up. And thank you, everybody, for being here with us. We're going a little longer so we can get to her. But Bernadette shares that 4 months into her new life, new foods, new medical issues that forever make me want to revert back to what I know was what the outcome will be, and it's not a good place. It's, yes, wanting to revert, like wanting to go back. Where does that come from? Where does that?
The same thing. The nervous system's a tenacious little bugger. It's like, okay, this is fine, but this worked. I know this worked, right? There's this forever desire to fall back into what's most familiar. And I don't mean what's most familiar for you. I mean the strategy that guaranteed success, right? It takes some doing to be to have such what it's doing is it's poking at your conviction. And if it can weaken your conviction, it'll bring you back to where you were. So if your conviction becomes devotion, right? You're just devoted to freedom. That becomes almost immovable. And when that becomes immovable, the nervous system has no choice but to let go of where it is and reorganize itself. because it's just a system. Remember, there's nobody there doing something. There's nobody plotting and planning. It's just a system that adapts. And because it was in this comfortable position, the first thing it's going to do is try to get circumstances back to the familiar. But if you're resolute, right, with love, and just, no, we're not going there. Sorry, right? I love you. Thank you for everything you're doing, but we're not going back there. It will eventually go, it'll grumble, but you're the boss. And it'll go, okay. And it'll go through the discomfort of letting go the familiar. And by nature, it will just begin to flow down the new channels. It'll just begin to reorganize itself around the new center. This is how the whole thing works. And it's an incredibly beautiful mechanism and incredibly powerful. And once we understand it and its nature, then we can get it to do what we want it to do. But you can never get it to do what you want it to do without understanding its nature. You can't make it do something contrary to its own nature. And its nature is protect. So you just have to show it how to protect differently. Go, oh, it'll be like the dog. Go, yay! It'll just do it, right? With no problem, and it doesn't even have a problem letting go because it has nothing invested. It's got no ego invested in it, right? The ego is here; it's not here.
Beautiful word to bring up, ego. With that, I was going to talk about attachment to identity for Bernadette and for everyone in my family. Like our big connection was, we'll have a cup of tea together, and this was like, it solves everything in my world. And when my sister came to a point where she couldn't have tea anymore, caffeine tea or whatnot, and she's not a really big fan of the herbal teas. And I thought, well, how are we going to get together? She's like, what do you mean? We're gonna get together? Well, we can't have tea. And it was like, I was just like, well, we won't have fun and stuff. Like, well, I have my water. I'm like, oh, it's not fun. We can't connect over water. And I was really hard. I was devastated, actually. I was like, this has been a broken thing. I didn't feel safe anymore. I'm just going to enjoy my tea in front of you? I can't do that. Now I have to have water. I don't want water. Anyways, it became this huge thing. And I noticed that I noticed that I wasn't even like going to have tea with her anymore. And I felt uncomfortable. I was like, well, we don't need to meet at a tea shop because let's come to your house. What's in the kitchen? How boring. So anyways, I was like a tea snob over this. And then I just realized, what am I doing? I love my sister so much. We have so much fun, and she can have her water. I can have my tea. The world as well. And so it was this, but I was sad for it first. Like, what do you mean you can't have tea? Oh my gosh, life is over. And I went through so many emotions. And when we're talking about reverting, I know that in my position, sometimes I've said, no, I'm not eating that particular thing. That doesn't make me feel well. It puts weight on me, whichever. And then other people say, oh, but you want to have this with me? We can do it special. And then I revert. And so there was where was my devotion? Was it to this other person, to that connection, to that experience, or was it to myself, whether it was to my health or my goals or whatever I needed? And so there's this inner work is necessary because it's not done. It wasn't like I needed to inner work to approve of my sister. It was, what am I so afraid of? Where is it that it's holding me back from having this loving space and open heart? So I had to share that story. All these things that you said, GP, they show up in our world in different areas that we might not recognize. And that was just one of them for me.
All the places we get attached to things.
Yes.
I mean, if we realize this is the human condition, we can all have a really great laugh and stop beating ourselves up because it's everywhere. it's everywhere.
They are. And we have another thumbs up from Sophie for a tapping workshop around weight. All right. And you know what? We should, back in the day, I was going to call something weightless, and you just called it weightless. So I thought that was funny because
weightless. I like it.
That's actually something that I thought about in 2015. So perhaps it shall be called weightless. No, I don't. We'll float.
Yes. Well, we have to be careful because the moment you say something about weight loss, you get deplatformed.
Oh, that's right. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, tapping for weight loss.
We'll have to call it tapping for story.
You certainly, your advertising will be canceled. It's a long story because I was working with somebody. They had they were doing weight loss, and they just used my account on Google to advertise. And she was actually well known. She was Spanish language, but she was a celebrity in the Spanish language doing this program. So she had all the authority, she had the degrees, and it was Facebook, not Google, and they canceled my account.
Yeah.
Period. They cut it off. Never again can you advertise in the platform because it had the words weight loss.
Okay, so we won't be calling it that. So look for a secret word.
So we're going to have to if we're going to do it, we're going to have to sneak it in the side where nobody's going to notice.
Yes, we'll make sure we invite you guys privately, and then you'll know what we're talking about, and then we'll create that. But and thank you. Yes, it's fun to share stories. I really, yes, when they come up, they're fun to get. Did I make sure I got everybody there as we wrap up?
Food was Bernadette's safe place. Janet was crying. I hope that's where tears of relief. Yeah.
Expression, freedom.
Well,
I'm so happy that this show happened. You know, I always appreciate the added wisdom and the guidance and the options for when we are stuck in whatever place we are, be it. And honestly, you could take this entire show, this entire class, and replace this word with finances, with relationships, with it. It doesn't really, you know what? It's interchangeable. So is it?
Yes, it is actually. It is actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, GP. That was, I'm so happy that we got to take it to the places I was hoping to. And very much has a spiritual component to it. And I'm happy to invite everybody to explore it. So if, like I said, if you have any questions or would like some guidance or anything, just message here or email me at lisa@omschool.co. And well, GP, you know where to always find me. And we'll be back next Tuesday for another episode of Homeschool Live. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.